That's a big bass. This is how I rig my worm. This is the Baby Bass, I believe, by Gary Yamamoto. Great worms. I also love Yum Dingers. Those are great too. They're a little cheaper. But what I've noticed about a worm, the two difference in the Yum and the Gary Yamamoto Sinkos is the Sinko sinks a lot faster, but it has a little more action. The Yum Dinger sinks a little slower, but has less action, because when a worm falls, what it does. It's what it's supposed to do. It goes like this. That's what triggers the bass, is that movement. 90% of the time, the bass will not hit a worm until it hits the ground. 90% of the time, not always. So what I do is, you get yourself a nice long cast. These have plenty of salt in them, so they got a lot of weight. Look at that cast. Boom. I mean, look at that. I don't use a weight. Unless I'm fishing in really deep water and the wind's blowing real bad. I try not to use a weight because it takes away a lot of the action. I mean, you still get action with the weight, but if you go weightless, you're getting as much action as possible. So I let my worm sink, and what you're going to do is watch your line, and that's when you'll know it sinks, because it'll, when it hit the bottom, because it'll stop. The line will stop moving. It's still moving. All right, line's done moving. There's 3 ways I work a worm. Quick twitches, 1, 2. I let my worm sink, because remember, the bass usually don't hit it until it hits the ground. Watch your line, sunk, 1, 2. 1 short twitch, the second twitch a little aggressive. Because if you ever look at crawdads or things that's on the bottom, that's what they do when they're about to get attacked. They just like that. So I do the same thing with my worm. That's the first way that I'll work a worm. The second way is I'll just slide it on the bottom, and I do this a lot when it's hot because the bass don't want to move. So I just like that. Just like that. Just be really patient, really slow and patient. You can let it sit a few seconds. Just like that. Or the third way I'll do it, remind you, the worm goes like this when it sinks. So I'll pick it up off the ground, let it sink. Wait till my line stops moving, because that action is what triggers the bass. Pick it up off the bottom, let it sink. It's 3 ways that I work a worm. Now, I'd love to get a bite right now so I can show you how I set the hook. Sunk. Now, pick it up off the bottom, let it sink. Now, once you get a strike, your line, you'll see, your line will start moving. You want to wait anywhere from 1 to a good 3 seconds. You don't want to set the hook right away, because usually what's going on is the bass has it, but it's hanging from his mouth. You don't even have it all the way in his mouth. You don't want to kill the fish. You don't want him to swallow the worm. All right, so you don't want to wait no more than 4 seconds. Most people say 3, but I do about 4, and I never really throat a bass. And when that line starts moving, you wait. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and boom, set the hook. Set the hook as hard as you can. I always like a little drag, so when I set the hook, you're always going to hear boom, just like that. You're always gonna hear that ramp, because so my line don't pop. Sometimes, man, you might hook onto an 8-pound bass, 9-pound bass, and if you set the hook extremely hard, your line's gonna snap. I see people take steps back, 1, 2, 3, 4, and boom, like they're about to throw a football. You know that how a quarterback steps back and then they set the hook so hard and then their line snaps. Now, if you got 60, 70-pound test, it's not something you have to worry about. But I'm using 20-pound test. I think the lighter the line, the better. It casts farther. and it's less visible. Okay, now, do colors matter? Yes, absolutely, colors matter. What you want to do, whatever spot you're fishing, and I haven't done this here because I can't see the bait fish because there's no way for me to get close enough to the bank. Say if you got I think those are called zebra fish. They're black and white striped. You want to get a worm that's black and white, or a pale white. It's like almost like a pearl, but a palish color with a gray or white. Shiners, if they got blue in them, if they got gold in them, you always want to match, which they call is matching the hatch. But you want to match what's going on in that body of water. I'll show you how I rig it. You can also do a wacky rig. Wacky rig's really effective. It's not weedless. We're gonna do a wacky rig real quick, and then we're gonna move on to the paddle tail. All right, wacky rig. It's real simple, really simple, and you don't have to rig it right here. You can down here, up here. You know, up to you. And what's cool about the wacky rig? These two ends of the worm, when you reel it in, they go like this. So it makes it look like a crawfish or something alive, but you still get that sinking action where the worm goes like this. This is how I do a wacky rig. Get you a nice long cast, let your worm sink. This is how I do it. And then work it really slow. This is how I do it. Sometimes I'll let it sink, and you can play around with it until you get comfortable with how you want to work it. And then you can also jig this off the bottom. Because it's not weedless, I try to keep this worm moving. So now, I don't know if you guys can see that. You see that worm? You see I got a bunch of... You see how the two ends are going like this? All right, let's switch up to a paddle tail. This is your paddle tail. This is how I rig it. This is called a Texas rig. I've noticed I rig mine a little different than others. Just like this, look. Boom. Put it in until the bend of the hook. Come out. Push it all the way in. Pull your hook through. Just like that. Go ahead and hook. Put the tip of the hook in the worm. Take the tip of the eye. Put that in your original hole. Bang. Texas rig. Now a swim worm. You can use it just like I explained originally with the regular worm, but you can also swim this. Get you a nice long cast. And let this sink. You can also just straight reel it in. This is probably, I choose a paddle tail over a regular Senko. I really do, because you get the double whammy. You get this, and then that paddle tail, when you move it, goes like this, so it looks like a baby fish. That's how I use it. And you can get creative with this. You don't have to do it like I'm doing. All you need to know is the worm's doing this when it sinks, and it's doing this when you pull it. And you can jig it off the bottom. Hopefully we catch a bass. I hope that helps. The baby bass sitting by a drain. That's where they sit. Another baby bass. It's just a baby. Dap it up, buddy. All right. Got my worm. There's another one in there. That's why I like drains. I never walk up on it all the way because I don't want to spook the fish. That's why drains over there. I cast from over here because there's always going to be some bass most of the time by these drains. So let's see. Boom. Got another one. It's another baby. Man, I was hoping for something bigger. Oh, that was almost bad. He's full of energy. He's been caught before. This guy, that's why he's so mad. He's been caught before. All right, little feller, okay. Little Florida black bass, black looking bass. They don't look gold here like they do up north. How they look, sometimes lighter, sometimes darker. There's not much of a gold tint. All right, buddy. Another little one right there. I'm hoping for a big one. I think that might have been the only two, really. Oh, oh, that's a big bass. Oh. Oh my goodness, dude. Dude, that was a giant bass. That was a giant bass. He might hit again. He might hit again. I still got my hook. He took my worm. He might hit again. God. Look at that. Look at that. Whatever that was. Man, something's under there. Well, he's not as big as I thought, but he's... that's a big bass. Okay, he is as big as I thought. Holy crap. Oh, I got him in the throat. Man, that's a big bass. Hold on, buddy. I have to save his life. That is a big freaking bass right there. He's bleeding. I got him in the throat. I got it out, but that is a big bass, dude. All right, let me clean him off. Man, what a nice bass. What a nice bass. What a nice bass. I mean, he's a good 4 pounds easy. That is a nice bass right there. A lot of freaking work to get this thing. I've been out here like 3 hours, but working that worm. This is what that worm does. That worm's a beast, dude. It's a great bait. I said switch colors to a pale color, but it got him. It got him. So that's the results of working a worm. Put him back. All right, buddy. He'll be all right. All right. That's what you get with a stick worm, whether it's yum. That was a Guggen stick worm. Guggen Baits, Gary Yamamoto. I'm not sponsored by anybody. So what I'm telling you is just me trying to help. You know, you're not gonna hear me say, click the link below for these baits. You know, I ain't at that point yet. So it's just the truth. I've caught more bass off a stick worm than any other bass bait ever made. Promise you, it'll work. Just follow those instructions, it'll work. Thank you for watching. God bless.